So, here we go. This message is more of a journey that I can say I've had to take. I've had to take a journey to get to this place. So, this is kind of how it works. I'm seeking God with every little moment that I can get. It's been a busy time. My heart goes out to just all the people in our congregation have battled such war and such difficulties. And my heart gets broken over it because I know in my heart I want to do so much more and I just can't. So just during this recent time, just thinking about families and thinking about all that everybody's going through, so much. And it's heartbreaking. And then, of course, God reminds me, I'm a good father. And I'm with them. And God reminds me of how good He is and how He's your God. And how He loves you. And how He is with you. Even if we don't always understand the things we go through. So I'm seeking God. I'm saying, God, what do I share for Father's Day? What do you want me to say? What can I say to your people on Father's Day? And I was reading something that helped me ask a question to myself. It was a question like this, because I was asking this of God, Lord, what would you have me say? And I felt like just through that, some of the material I was reading, I read something that said, the question I need to ask is, what have I learned from being a father? What have I learned in this world about fathers? What have I learned about what God says about fathers? And as soon as I started asking that question, I just crashed, folks. I'll admit it, I just crashed. I was even thinking as I was getting up here this morning to keep this box near me. If Stella was going to be watching this, some of you are like, who's Stella, right? Darla, Stella, my sister. She cries every time. She can get up here and tell how she won $1 million and she'll cry. So, anyway, I'm literally praying I don't have to reach for that box. I don't want to bum you out. I don't want anybody walking out here all depressed. Man, Pastor, you just made me all depressed. I was going to have a great time and I would go home also. I'm like, God, don't let that happen. But I crashed. Because when I started asking these questions, what have I learned? Because those are where the ministry really will begin to come from. I started to reflect on mistakes. Failures, things I've done wrong. Just, you know how, I almost swallowed my halls. I'm not crying, that's halls. Cough drop went down my face. Yeah, being a father, a physical father, a father of children, and even a spiritual father, I started reflecting on mistakes. I started thinking, man, God, that's not what I really wanted to be thinking about. I want to be thinking about all the mistakes I've made. I don't want to do that. But I started to realize, the more I reflected on mistakes, the more I realized that those were the places where I learned. Those were the places where I went from not having wisdom, not knowing what to do, not knowing how to face this problem or that challenge or this struggle, to learning how. And sometimes crossing those bridges was difficult, and it was kind of a long-term thing because you make those decisions, you make those mistakes, and sometimes it's a painful thing at the end when you look back and you go, man, if I can go back and redo this, I would. 1,000% I would. As a father and even a spiritual dad. There's so much you learn by looking back and thinking about your mistakes. And Then I went from that place to the point where I started making connections with where some of those mistakes came from. And maybe some of you can relate to this. How many know that some mistakes we make are just because we made them? You know, we knew better, but we were just being stupid. Thank you, Brother Lynn. I was waiting for a few backup. Got some backup here. Anybody make any mistakes simply because you were just being stupid about it? You got it out, right? I started reflecting on how some of the mistakes I made simply because I knew better and I just didn't do the right thing. Then I started thinking, making connections, how there were some mistakes I made because I simply didn't know. Which drew me to the other connection. And I'm telling you, I'm just taking you down this journey. It took me to this other connection where I started realizing that bear with me because I'm going to keep all my tears in my eyes. Keep them in there. I started realizing some of the mistakes that were being made in my life came from simply I didn't know. And part of the reason I didn't know is because looking back, I didn't have that father figure, that person in my life that could tell me, don't do that, son. Or, hey, you're doing great. Keep going. That's the right way to go. Or, that's okay, but let's do it better. I started realizing how many undeveloped areas were in my life directly connected to not having a father. You'll be surprised at how many things, and it doesn't matter because there is no perfect father. That's the whole reason for my message today. The title of this message is for the best gift you can give your fathers. It's a long title. The best gift you can give your fathers is to forgive your fathers for his sake and for your sake. There are no perfect fathers, and so that's just not a reality. But I started to realize that even an imperfect father, a father that's here sometimes not, making a lot of mistakes, even that sometimes there are things you can get and learn that want to help you develop and become a better person for that next generation. And I started to make that connection. All the things that just didn't happen in my life because of that empty spot. Now don't get me wrong. I'm not saying to you that I traced it all back and I'm going to blame my dad for all my problems. No, far from it. Rather the opposite. I begin to realize how fathers need forgiveness. Gosh, they need forgiveness. Because fathers who fail have a lot of things in common. We have this. We have imperfect parents that we learn from. For me, my mom was pretty cool. Maybe a little too cool. Anybody have a too cool mom? I love my mom. She's in Oklahoma right now with my stepdad. They're out there doing some, what I would call ministry for part of our family. But my mom serves God. She loves the Lord. She's an amazing lady. And she did her best to raise us. But Dad wasn't around. Other people were around. How many know sometimes you can get some bad influences as well, right? Well, we have every father who's made mistakes, because we all have a few things in common. We have imperfect parents, whether they were there or not, whether they were really bad or just semi-bad or just absent. You can have people who are there but not there. And the other thing we have in common is that we live in a broken world, a really messed up world. How many would agree with this? Yeah. And so, instead of, on this journey, as I was seeking God, and God was showing me, you want to minister wisdom, you want to share what God has taught you and what the Word of God teaches us, then think about your life. Think about where you've been. And I learned more from the mistakes I made and mostly everything else. And yes, my father wasn't there. And yes, it caused a lot of frustration. And to be honest, it's still causing frustration. Because I'm still a dad. Right? How many of you are still learning? Anybody still learning? Amen? How many of you can bear this message? You guys okay? I need you to bear this message with me because, I wanted to do like a pep rally service or something. I wanted to do some kind of like celebration, championship kind of thing. And instead I just felt God take me down a place where He says, I just want to heal some people. I want to heal people and I need you to just obey me and say what I want you to say. And so I'm like, okay, Lord. Start with healing this guy so I can get this out. So going on this journey, I did come to a place where I started blaming my dad. I want to blame him. I want to forgive him. For his sake and for mine. How can that minister to us today? Well, I think about a story in the Bible. Now, here's another thing that makes this service different. We can't read the story of this Bible. We can't read this story this morning. Because if we do, we'll be here till 5:30 tonight. It's literally chapters and chapters. 2 Samuel. It starts around chapter 12. And it goes all the way to 2 Samuel chapter 18, verse 15. There's no way to read all that. And I realize that some of you thinking about that scripture reference probably don't even know exactly where that's at just yet. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to overview a story to make the connection. How many of you have ever heard of a guy named Absalom? Okay, if you guys never heard of a guy named Absalom, Absalom was one of the sons of David. King David. David the shepherd boy. David the sweet psalmist. David the giant killer. David the king of Israel. David the one who has an incredible testimony, and also David the one who failed miserably. We all know who he is, right? Amen. Well, he had a son named Absalom, and in the passage in between chapter 12 of 2 Samuel all the way to chapter 18, verse 15, we reflect on the story because it gives us something to learn, something that we need for ourselves. You see, Absalom wasn't around when David failed. He came around after. Absalom did not live through the time where David had fell with Bathsheba, or where David killed Uriah, and where God told David, for the rest of your days, trouble will be in your home because of the decisions of your life. Absalom wasn't there. But go down this journey with me for a moment. Imagine being Absalom, growing up in the king's palace, hearing a lot of great things. Oh, your dad's such an awesome man. Your dad's the king. Your dad, the Psalms and the beautiful Psalms. And so Absalom grew up in the house hearing all this great stuff about his dad. You know that they try to keep all of the other things a secret. But here's the thing. He heard one thing, but he lived in the house. So he saw another thing. He saw something else. Where everyone outside of the kingdom, everyone outside of the palace, they knew him as the champion, the one who led us under God and all of that. But what they didn't see was the inside story. They didn't hear the inside scoop of what David demonstrated in the palace. Absalom had a front row seat. He didn't know that their family was reaping decisions that Dad made before he was around. He didn't know. All he knew was something's wrong in my family. And so we pick this up where we see the story. And again, I want you guys just to write it down and read the story later, because we just don't have the time to read it all today. And here's the thing. This is the story in the Bible, one of those stories where It's like rated NR-17. Does anybody know what that is? No? You don't see the movie ratings anymore? Is it 17? Not rated 17? Does anybody know what rated X is? Okay. This is the part of the scriptures where it is just really horrible stuff. And I'm glad it's there because it teaches us how to hear the truth and deal with even the worst things that can happen. So here's Absalom, growing up, hearing good things about his dad, yet watching his dad. He's only a shell and a shadow of what he was. And so there came a time in David's family where one of David's nephews, by the name of Amnon, I think. There's so many names I get the names mixed up. But the nephew was named Abinadab. A couple of cousins. Let's do that. It's a little easier. A couple of cousins to Absalom. David is their uncle. Abinadab is one of the buddies. Absalom had a sister named Tamar. How many of you are sort of starting to remember the story now? Absalom had a sister, her name was Tamar. And what happens here is the cousin who was raised in the family of the king, who wasn't raised right, wasn't taught, spoiled brat, get what you want, just complain if you don't, do whatever it takes, break the law, do whatever, it doesn't matter, because my uncle's the king and I get away with whatever I want. Can you imagine that? Oh, by the way, all parents, if we raise our kids spoiled, that's what they end up like. They think the world owes them something, and so they will never take no for an answer. They'll get what they want, they'll do what they want, and it'll only hurt them. And this is why we have to take a stand for our kids, and even if it means to teach them, even if it means that we have to discipline them. Oh, did he say discipline? Yeah. Even if it means that you have to take the rod of correction and apply it to the seat of understanding. Oh no, that's child abuse. You can't. You know what I mean. I don't promote child abuse here, and as you guys know very well, God has given a place in every one of our bodies that's perfect for discipline. It's got cushion. It can handle it. And let's keep going. So this cousin, every time the Absalom's sister would show up, he would go after her. And one day he forced her. Think about that. He forced her. And then after he was done with her, he threw her out. Locked the door. Said, get her out of my sight. So she ended up in shame on the street when her brother Absalom found her. And so Absalom took her into his house. Now, can you imagine Absalom going, what is happening in my family? Why are all these ugly things happening? Remember, he wasn't around. He doesn't know. He just knows something's not right. And because Absalom had received some bad parenting from his father, just like David's brothers didn't raise their kids right either, Absalom had a bad attitude towards things, looked at things wrong all the time, very judgmental and very, he was always ugly in the way he would look at things. And of course, we're not here to talk about blame or talk about any of that. We're actually here, again, to talk about forgiving fathers for their sake and for ours. So, what does Absalom do? As you read the passages, you can get the sense that he's looking to his father David to make it right. He looks to his father. And the Bible tells us that King David, when he hears about this, he gets very angry. And that's it. Let that sink in for a minute, because let me tell you, true forgiveness is really hard. It's not easy. Sometimes true forgiveness is hard because the crimes are so bad. But let me tell you, true forgiveness is not forgive and forget. True forgiveness is, I remember, but my Father in heaven remembered my sin and forgave me. And so even though I remember the wickedness, I forgive. And that is why true forgiveness is so hard at times. Back to the story. Absalom, not knowing anything, only knowing that he's watched his dad and as he's growing up, and he wasn't the thing that everybody else was saying. And he just looked at his dad, and so he's like waiting for the king. He's got the authority to do something. He's waiting for the king to do something, and all that the king does is gets very angry, and then he just whatever. He doesn't do anything. And so Absalom, not knowing the God of his father, which is another mistake. Parents, we need to realize that if we're not teaching our kids to love the Lord, gosh, I need to expound on that. What does that mean? It doesn't mean you're coming to church with me, I don't care. You're going to love God. Okay? How many know that sometimes it feels like that's what we're doing? No. It's setting something in motion where God is important to you, where you surrender to Him, you love Him, and so you're faithful and you're pressing on and you go for it. You love God in good times and in bad times, and your kids see it. And they realize, man, this God that my parents love is a good God. Amen. And I need to love Him as well. And sometimes that happens later in life. I've known kids, man, getting saved. I found out over the years, 55 years old, getting saved. It took a long time, but I now know. I don't care if it takes 75 years, 80 years, their deathbed. If they come to know the Lord, that is a blessing. Amen to that. But I heard a story once where there was three fathers that were told to teach their sons how to love the Lord. And the first father hammered his kid and said, "You need to come to church. You need to stop that, and you need to be good. And if not, there's hell waiting, and so you better love the Lord. I love you, son, and that's why I tell you. I just don't want you in hell." And that day came when, on that journey, the father and the son came face to face with the Lord. And the son, because of what he learned, was afraid of the Lord and hid behind his dad. He was just scared of him. Because all his life he just felt afraid of this God that his dad died. The second father said, the way you want to live, son, is you want to go after it. You want to be successful, and you want to get all you can, and that's where the real happiness is. And so, and add the Lord in there for good measure, good luck in there. And so their time came where they met the Lord face to face. And the son looked at the Lord and just smiled and just kept walking and just passed him by, because that's all he ever learned. Was, yeah, that's God. I know who He is. Keep going. Don't need Him. But there was that third father who, through whatever, said, trust God. You gotta trust Him. He's a loving Father, and you can trust Him. And on that day, when they met the Lord, the son had no issue just releasing his father's hand and taking the Lord's hand without skipping a beat, completely trusting. Because he had always learned that this God that he now sees face to face as loving, merciful, and amazing can be trusted. He learned that from his father, and his father showed it through actions and words and everything. And so, back to the story, Absalom didn't know the sweet psalmist David. He didn't know the giant killer David, did he? I get the feeling I'm losing you all now. Are we just, we're done? It's time for lunch? All right, I just want to make sure, guys, because this is so important. He didn't know that giant killer dad. He didn't know that sweet psalmist, that shepherd that would risk his life for the sheep. He didn't know that guy. He just knew the sort of weak dad in the king's palace, who a lot of people talk good things about, but it didn't match with what he's seen. And so, when what he believed was confirmed, his father, the king, heard what happened and was very angry, but did nothing. Absalom said, you know what? I'm going to take this in my own hands. And after 2 years, he made a plan. He made a plan. And in this plan, he tricked everybody in the story, including his dad, and pulled his cousin out where he can get at him, and he killed his cousin. He killed him. Fast forward. This Absalom was angry with his father. How could you do nothing? And so what does he do? He, after killing his cousin to revenge his sister's name, his father rises up and banishes his son. And Absalom has to move away. Now at this point, all of the military people around David are saying, what? If it was one of our kids, you would have put him to death. And so, there he is again, David, the father who fails. He's banished, he's left, he's out. Fast forward. He is now somewhere, time has gone by and he's requesting to come back. David welcomes him back but says, but don't come to the palace, I don't want to see you. Fast forward a little more. We find out Absalom has not changed. Instead of forgiving his father, he continues on with the grudges he holds and the revenge in his heart and the unwillingness to see how we need forgiveness. And so what does he do? He holds on to it. And so over a period of time, he makes another plan. And this is where a lot of people know Absalom the most. Because one thing Absalom had as a reputation is this guy was a good-looking dude. I didn't make that up, guys. Read it. The Bible says this guy was good-looking. And this is for you sisters. The Bible says that he was just good-looking and he just had that hair. I mean, it was bad. It was awesome hair. It said every time he got a haircut, when all the hair that they cut off of him, it was really heavy. He had this amazing hair. So the guy walked around good looking, awesome hair, one of those dudes. Anybody can you imagine it? No? The reason I say this, sisters, because I've heard this before. I've heard some sisters say about some brothers, I wish I had hair like that. Am I right about that, sisters? No? Yes? Okay. This dude was awesome looking. He wasn't humble or anything. He was a mess. This guy was a mess. And he had issues, and he held on to this thing in his life. And so he pulled another plan together. He knew that there's something about him, and being the king's son, people kind of gravitated towards him and followed him. You might think that's not a big deal, but you would be surprised how many people do that today. Movie stars. Anybody have a haircut like a movie star? You dress like your favorite person. Even right now. I mean, I like sports, but I'm wearing me a jersey right now. See, you'd be surprised how many people actually are influenced by people who are good looking and famous. I'm not even going to ask you about your shoes right now. But I wonder if we did a poll right now. How did you come to like your shoes? For the brothers, it's like, well, that's, I don't know, LeBron, Steph Curry tennis shoes. I don't know. For the ladies, it's, I have no idea. But they were beautiful, and I just wanted them shoes, or whatever it is. We would be surprised to think about how we are influenced by the good-looking, the beautiful. This whole generation is being influenced by a lot of weird people in our world. Somebody, please say amen to that. Amen. All you gotta do is think about what influences you. What do you like? What kind of music? What kind of movies? How do you, where do you get your style? Where do you get your impression? Well, here's Absalom walking around taking advantage of that. He's a bad guy. And so what is his new plan? I am going to become the king. My dad didn't do what he was supposed to do. My dad did the opposite. My dad was a mess. And all my pain in life came from him. I know what I did, but hey, it's not my fault. It's his fault. I killed because of him. I made mistakes because of him. I broke the law because of him. How many know that's a cop-out? Even though there's influence. Every single one of us, we make mistakes because we knew better and just did it. And we make mistakes because we haven't learned yet. And all of us have that true about our lives. But here's Absalom, not realizing the forgiveness of God that he needs for his own life, projects his unforgiveness towards his imperfect father. We close here. Like I said, there's way too much in the story. There comes a point where he gets so many people to follow him, almost half the kingdom is following him. He's causing an uprising against the king, and he's going to take out his dad. And the Bible tells us, well, they're not, 2 Samuel 18:15. The only reason I zero in on that is that was the day Absalom died. 2 Samuel 18:15. That was the day Absalom died. How did he die? Pulling together this new plan that was birthed out of unforgiveness, birthed out of anger, birthed out of hatred, birthed out of just holding those grudges and not forgiving because of his imperfect father's mistakes. He ends up trying to go to war. He ends up fleeing for his life, riding on a donkey, riding through a forest of trees that have a lot of branches with, just really full. And as he's riding through that, his hair catches onto the trees. His hair. And the donkey keeps riding him, so he's dangling by his hair. And then those chasing him catch up to him. They surround him. And they pierce him through with spears. And the end of Absalom is a horrible death. Wow, what a Father's Day service. You're depressing me, Pastor. Why did you do that? I wanted to go have a good time. Here it is. Here's what we're talking about. Whatever it is you're going through. Maybe you're one of those fathers who's made a lot of mistakes. You're looking back and you can't fix it. Can't change it. maybe it's time for a drink again. Or maybe you're one of those who your memories of your father cause a lot of pain for you. Maybe the pain is because you just miss him. Whatever it is. But today, I believe one of the greatest gifts that we can give to fathers is forgiveness. I can't begin to say that I know what you're going or what you've been through or where you're going, what you're going through right now. I can't. I'm just a guy going through my own stuff. But I can tell you this. What I do know is we have imperfect fathers. We've had imperfect fathers. We have been imperfect fathers. We have made many mistakes in our lives. We've done some good things too. And many of us are hurt by imperfect fathers, and we have pain in our hearts because of it. All of that. I can promise you this, if you go down your history and try to fix every little thing that came up, every little memory that just causes you pain or whatever it is, if you do that, it'll never end. It'll just resurface. What needs to be done for our Father's sake and for ours? Here's the mistake Absalom made. His life was painful, misguided, misdirected, and it ended horribly because he didn't forgive his father. And it ended up in his destruction. His forgiveness of his father could have also blessed his father. So, I close with these last two statements. I don't know who I'm representing today. I'm not sure, so I'm just going to speak as it is for me. And maybe it might be you. One of the best freedoms I can receive is forgiveness. For all the mistakes. The feeling that I've been released. I can be free to keep trying. Keep learning. Maybe that represents you today. Maybe you're one of those who says, I need forgiveness. I need people in my family, I need people around me to give me another chance. Give me a chance to learn, to grow, to be what God wants me to be. They've seen the worst, and their impression is formed. And the only thing that takes it away is forgiveness. So maybe there's some fathers like that, and here as I am, who would love and appreciate that freedom. The freedom to just keep trying. And by the way, I'm not saying I don't have that in my family. I do. My family always forgives me because I'm always goofing up. And I thank God. Or maybe you're on the other side of it. Maybe your life's been really hard. And when you trace it back, you're struggling. And there's a connection, a direct connection, or even an indirect connection that leads back to an unforgiveness. And you've tried every other way to fix it, and every way to go about it, every way to somehow make it work without forgiving. And all it's done is to take you on a road that's leading to destruction, and you know it, and it's painful, and it's ugly, and you just want to be free. Well, then maybe the best gift we can give to our fathers will be a gift that we give to ourselves. Because Because when we forgive our fathers, it gives them the freedom to get back up and fight on and be better and to make a difference. And by forgiving, it takes us out of the prison of grudges. It opens the gates. And we walk free, never to have to look back and blame. I can speak that, folks. I can speak that because I went through a difficult time recently. Trying not to blame my father who wasn't there. I don't hate him. I don't have anything against him. The truth is, just numb because he wasn't there. It's a liberating freedom for both father and children, even if, of course, you're an adult. And the last thing is this. But, Pastor, I don't have my father anymore. How do I do that? You can still forgive him. You can still release him so that you can be free. Again, I knew this was going to happen this morning. I knew that this would be one of these Father's Day where you're going to be like, wow, that's kind of like, I was kind of hoping for a fun day. And it's really hard to follow when they do raffles right now. And they come up, hey, all right, everybody. And it was, yeah, wow, after that message, sure. Sure. But I think the Father, our Father in heaven, you know what I think He wants? I think He wants us to be free. Blessed. That's more important to Him than us having this temporary moment where everybody's happy. Hey, church was sort of exciting today. Oh, we need church was in the presence of God. Church was a time where God opened it up and broke some things and messed with me a little bit to love on me and free me.